Hello and welcome back to Ginger Theory. We have so much to get into today. I thought it was just going to be a long weekend for me. Turns out it was a long weekend for the entire world. So I want to talk about some things that happened before Operation Epic Fury, and then we'll go over that as well. So on February 26th, Hillary Clinton testified for 6 hours at the House Oversight Committee. It's always got to be the number 6 with these people. Bill Clinton testified the following day. Their depositions were behind closed doors, and apparently this is House protocol for this kind of hearing, and with the Epstein investigation. It was videotaped, and as I started recording, they dropped them publicly, so I'll be going over those and then addressing them later this week. But if it was anything like the Pam Bondi DOJ hearing, prepare to be disappointed and slightly enraged. Hillary claims that she had never met Jeffrey Epstein, spoken to him, visited his island, or flew on his plane. Okay, cool. What about your relationship with Ghislaine? Why is Hillary obsessed with pizza? Why not ask about her relationship with James Alefantis and the Terramar Project, since you want to bring up Pizzagate and call it a vile conspiracy? Because there are numerous connections between the whole Pizzagate situation and Epstein. It's crickets. They don't want to talk about that. So the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, this committee, was formerly called the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability prior to Trump taking office and Republicans gaining control of the House and changing the name. The committee consists of 26 Republicans and 21 Democrats, so 47 members. All 26 Republicans and 12 Democrats, so 38 out of 47, are supporters of Israel and military aid for Israel. So once again, sending aid to Israel is 100% against federal law. So they are actively participating in crimes and using our taxpayer money to commit crimes. Put their asses in prison. It's important to note that it's important to talk about their relationships with Israel because the entire essence of Jeffrey Epstein was that of an Israeli asset employed by incredibly powerful people, including but not limited to the Rothschilds. Now, Lauren Boebert, who you may know as the woman who engages in sexual acts in public theaters in Colorado, is a pro-Israel AIPAC-funded congresswoman. She caused the deposition to be halted before it even started with Hillary because she was taking photos and or videos of Hillary Clinton and sending them to at least one influencer, Benny Johnson, trash. A sitting congresswoman can't even behave herself and obey the rules of the House Oversight Committee. No surprise there because the ruling class are not held to any standard. Rules for thee, not for me. I mean, it should be no surprise. It's literally in the name. Ruling class, they rule us. Meanwhile, we pay their salaries and their meaningless laws, bills, and policies, which are usually just money laundering packages, honestly. According to PBS News, when asked why she took and shared a photo of Hillary, Boebert responded, "Why not?" That is so despicable. Like, did you think you ate with that? For someone who takes my tax dollars and doesn't even obey the rules of her job, the very few rules of her job, this country, our government has become a gigantic joke. All of these Congress members are useless mouthpieces who don't even care about the rule of law because, once again, it doesn't apply to them. So usually when there's a major event happening that they want all the public's attention on, it's because they're moving chess pieces in the background. This is a, widely recognized phenomenon known as news burial, agenda displacement, or dead cat strategy. This happened in June as well, when Israel chose to attack Iran during the 12-day war from June 13th to June 24th of 2025. Israel bombed military and nuclear facilities across Iran. They assassinated prominent military leaders, nuclear scientists, politicians, and normal people who were innocently murdered. And during those 12 days, all the following happened domestically with minimal public attention. The OBBBA, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, was steamrolling through the Senate. Now, the Senate parliamentarian ruled that several provisions violated the Byrd Rule, including a 10-year ban on state-level AI regulations. And there was language that limits the power of federal courts to give out contempt of court citations. So they can lie in court. That's a really big deal. These are extraordinary democracy-altering provisions that on any normal news days, these would have generated enormous public debates. And instead, they were adjudicated during near silence while the public watched missile intercept videos. Watchdogs were also publishing urgent, whistles that there was no Congress authorization for Trump's attack on Iran. And his decision to join Israel's attack was pretty much illegal. Now, this war powers debate, which is one of the most significant constitutional questions that a democracy can face, was largely drowned out. So Trump ran explicitly as a peace candidate in 2024. His advisors warned everyone that voting for Harris would lead to wars like this, unnecessary wars. But within 5 months of taking office, he had launched strikes against Iran, which was a fundamental betrayal of his campaign promise. But the dominant narrative was about missiles, not broken promises. That's what they do with that military-industrial complex in your mind, where it's like, guys, we have to do this. No, how about you actually be the president that you said you were going to be? How about you do your job? And then when Trump announced the ceasefire on June 23rd on social media, of course, the immediate conflict subsided. The OBBBA, One Big Beautiful Bill, moved rapidly to the final stages, and Senate approved the bill 51-50 on July 1st, 2025. So a week after the war was announced a ceasefire, the Vice President J.D. Vance was, I can't stand his ass, but he casted the tie-breaking vote. And it passed the House 218-214 on July 3rd and was signed into law by Trump on July 4th, 2025. So they literally drowned out all of the discussion around that bill by using the 12-day unnecessary Iranian war, basically. So the bill's scope was insane and once again almost entirely under-discussed due to the brief war period. The Congressional Budget Office estimated that the bill's health provisions alone would result in almost 12 million people losing health coverage by 2034. Over a 10-year period, it's also estimated to add roughly $3 trillion to the national debt and cut approximately $4.5 trillion in taxes. It also included $30 billion toward ICE enforcement and deportation operations, which is a 308% increase on an annual basis over ICE's fiscal year 2024 detention budget. That was the most consequential piece of domestic legislation in decades, probably in my entire lifetime. And it was passed while the country was still processing ceasefire announcements from a Middle East war. The 4th of July signing was itself a piece of staged craft, a bill that millions of Americans didn't know what actually contained. They would lose health insurance and many other things. It was signed at a White House barbecue while the whole country was watching fireworks. That's also why they named it the One Big Beautiful Bill, because everything is a psychological operation. And once you realize that, things become a lot more clear. But so President Trump has been instructing Iranians for months to overthrow their government, which is quite hilarious considering his reaction to the Seditious Six video, in which 6 Congress members who are pro-Israel, so I don't really give a shit what they have to say, but he said that they should be hung because they told military members that they can not follow unlawful orders, which is true. So Trump pretends to be for the people and for freedom, but that never applies to the American people. And by the way, it doesn't apply to the Iranian ones either. He wanted to rile everybody up so that they engage in a civil war/revolt against the Iranian government, which would then result in countless civilian casualties. And by the way, I'm not on the regime's side. I'm just not an ignorant militant extremist. Don't forget that the CIA is known for their coups. Do you really think that what you're being shown about Iran is the whole truth? Similarly to the January 6th Capitol riot, millions of Americans were made to believe that a large group of US citizens were trying to overthrow the government. In reality, almost every single person in that crowd was a federal agent. The US has been terrorizing the Middle East for like 80 years now, and I think that the media and the powers that be want us all to be stupid and believe that it really is as simple as evil Muslims and Arabs who want to destroy America for no reason but fanatical religious grounds. The Muslim bad theory. If you think that the current, or I guess now decapitated ruling party in Iran is bad, maybe you should realize that the US military intervention is why that party assumed power in the first place. To the Iranians supporting US military intervention, do you not remember what happened the last time the CIA overthrew your government? Prime Minister Mossadegh was democratically elected and assumed office in 1951 during the oil nationalization crisis. Mossadegh viewed Israel as a form of colonialism, but still didn't denounce them as a state. So then the CIA, backed by the US and the UK, removed him from power in 1953 because he had nationalized Iran's oil industry, which threatened British control of the Anglo-Iranian oil company, which later became BP. This is also what the US did just last year with Venezuela. They nationalized their oil, and so the US government started a campaign against Maduro for other reasons, like narco-terrorism, to manufacture consent for us to then basically take over the country and, perform a coup so that whoever we put in office would align with our interests and not their own countries. So it's just laughable for the US to accuse anyone of narco-terrorism or terrorism in general, as we've become a hegemony of military-industrial extremism. So because the West would rather steal other countries' resources rather than participating in good faith, peaceful diplomatic relations, they overthrew Mossadegh and put a dictator in power. So from 1953 to 1979, Iran became a brutal, totalitarian police state. And this was because of the extremist Shah Pahlavi, who was the monarch, and he ruled directly supported by Western powers and implemented modernization and repression through his secret police, SAVAK, SAVAK, and it's literally the boomerang effect. So people were so over this guy because he was so evil. So then the entire country revolted and overthrew him. Then they installed a different leader who could have been more religious extremist, whatever. It's the boomerang effect. You put somebody in power who doesn't represent Iranians and punishes them and maliciously works against our nation. So yeah, they're going to put in somebody who is absolutely anti-you. Like, it's just, put yourself in their shoes. It just makes sense, right? And once again, I'm not on the side of the regime, but I'm also very opposed to U.S. intervention. We are suffering here at home. They're wasting our money, and our government pretends they give a shit about the people of Iran. And also, after the 12-day war in June of last summer, the White House's official statement was that all Iranian nuclear facilities had been destroyed, and people saying otherwise was fake news. But now, leading up to this attack, and now they're saying that they're a major nuclear threat, and that's why we had to attack them first to thwart a nuclear attack. I'm sure there were nuclear weapons in that girl's school, right? That also goes into the Smith-Mundt Act, which is you cannot distribute foreign propaganda domestically. And that is Israeli foreign propaganda. They've been saying that for decades, that Iran and Iraq have weapons of mass destruction, nuclear weapons, and they're going to attack Americans because they hate America. They're going to destroy Israel. Yeah, that's foreign propaganda, and our president is committing a crime by distributing that to Americans. If the U.S. government was concerned about nuclear weapons, we would have sanctioned and or gone to war with Israel a long time ago. Israel, as far as we know, is the only country on Earth that has a doomsday nuclear scenario. Their Samson option was leaked, and that is basically their plan to destroy the entire world with nuclear weapons if they face vast existential military threats. A murder-suicide pact with the entire world, girl. That nation state is maybe the single most pressing threat, not just against the US, but against the entire world. And they possess countless nuclear weapons and other WMDs, but have never been sanctioned by the US. Because once again, all aid to Israel is illegal due to their nuclear capabilities. So I just want to make it clear that the US government only uses the threat of nuclear warfare as a scare tactic to manufacture consent from Americans for a full-scale war. We, the public, didn't want to go to war with Iraq and Afghanistan for Israel's interests, so they committed the worst terrorist attack on US soil to manufacture American consent. It's not a coincidence that all files from the Epstein case from 1999 to 2001 are not included in the DOJ files. They are nowhere to be found. Because, and we will all learn this eventually, Epstein and Maxwell played a major role in orchestrating that terrorist attack on behalf of Israel and the US and probably somebody else. So, leading up to the attack on Iran this past weekend, in the last 17 days, before the February 28 attacks, a single company, Oracle, whose founder, Larry Ellison, is one of Trump's most significant financial backers, consolidated an extraordinary concentration of power over America's most sensitive data infrastructure. On February 11th, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services selected Oracle Cloud Infrastructure to consolidate and migrate select on-premises workloads, supporting the agency's critical systems covering Medicare, Medicaid, CHIP, and the ACA marketplace. This tasks Oracle with the complete migration and management of workloads serving over 150 million Americans, which is one of the most significant federal cloud migrations in history. The very next day, on February 12th, Oracle picked up a contract with the U.S. Air Force to provide cloud infrastructure services for the Ep.1 program, supporting all required security, performance, and resiliency across multiple classification levels, including top secret / sensitive compartmented information, special access programs, and defense information system and agencies impact level 5 and 6. Highly classified shit. And by the way, there was no bidding. Companies didn't get to bid for this contract. Oracle was handed this contract. So then February 26th to 27th, the $111 billion merger between Paramount, who the CEO is David Ellison, Larry Ellison's son, Demon Spawn. So that the Paramount and Warner Bros. Discovery deal closed with Oracle as the exclusive cloud structure for the media entity. So the Ellison family literally owns American media at this point and TikTok, but if you say they all own the media, you're wrong, right? Okay. So then on that same day, February 27th, Oracle secured a landmark contract for, the Medicare services, as I was saying, for over 150 million plus Americans. What the hell is even that? And then on February 28th, the day of the attack, Oracle announced that its OCI generative AI services are now available in Oracle's top secret classified regions, granting U.S. government agencies the ability to run generative AI on highly sensitive defense and intelligence data. This authorization allows federal agencies to leverage large language models, so think ChatGPT and Grok, for mission-critical tasks like pattern recognition, automated data analysis, and decision-making within the highest security environments without requiring re-engineering. It's fully generative. And then behind the scenes of the Oracle debauchery, Defense Undersecretary Emil Michael was on the phone offering Anthropic, so Claude AI, a deal that would have required allowing the collection or analysis of data on Americans, from geolocation to web browsing to personal financial information, all data purchased from data brokers. So data they have mined from you. And so then Anthropic rejected that offer because the terms allowed AI to decide to kill human beings and were given final decision-making powers. And then they literally got blacklisted. So on Friday night, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, criminal, announced that ChatGPT would replace Claude at the Pentagon. Altman claimed that the Defense Department agrees to OpenAI's safety principles, only ceremonial though, by the way. It's not in contract. And this includes prohibitions on domestic mass surveillance and human responsibility for the use of force. Such an agreement would be identical to the one that the Pentagon declared Anthropic a supply chain risk for. So, in other words, OpenAI got the same terms Anthropic was blacklisted for demanding. It's weird, and why is there a double standard? But then again, OpenAI's policy is ceremonial. So that's why. So then on February 28, the strikes happened, or they began, around 1:15 a.m. Eastern time, which is 9:45 a.m. Iranian time. The first strikes happened. Israel and the U.S. launched an unwarranted attack against Iran without congressional approval. So then around 2:30 a.m. Eastern time, President Trump posted an 8-minute video to his social media platform, Truth Social. Can we just talk about how absolutely unacceptable it is for the President of the United States to address the nation through a social media app? Hey guys, we're entering a global war, like and share. You're sick. Official government communications are being conducted through a social media platform that the president owns and profits from. This is hell. Welcome to 2026. Truth Social is owned by Trump Media and Technology Group, TMTG. That is a publicly traded company. It can be purchased by anyone, including foreign nationals, state-linked entities, working on behalf of a foreign state, and foreign sovereign wealth funds. So when foreign governments or their proxies purchase TMTG stock, which is denoted DJT, they directly enrich the president. So then when President Trump uses Truth Social for official announcements, he amplifies the platform's value and boosts stock, increasing the return on those foreign investments. So 3 main points. Foreign entities may purchase shares as a mechanism to transfer wealth to the president under the table. That's against the law. Advertising revenue from foreign companies on Truth Social also flows directly to TMTG, of which Trump is the controlling shareholder. And lastly, no act of Congress has authorized Trump to receive these benefits, which places each foreign transaction in alleged violation of Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. And the clause requires zero intent. It doesn't matter whether he meant to do that or not. Any profit flowing from a foreign government entity, regardless of motive, constitutes an emolument. And the courts are pretty broad on the scope of this clause. So it absolutely covers more than this, but indirect benefits through corporative ownership structures. So the exact same thing that Trump is doing. Now, the Domestic Emoluments Clause, Article 2, Section 1, prohibits the president from receiving any emolument from the United States or any individual state beyond his fixed congressional compensation, so his salary. The clause exists to ensure the president serves the nation's interests and not his own financial interests or those of particular states. When these federal agents direct their official government communications through Truth Social, or when government spending in any way benefits the platform, public money flows toward the president's private business. This is precisely the scenario in which the Domestic Emoluments Clause was made to prevent. And specific factors include federal departments that use Truth Social for press releases or public notices, increase the platform's engagement metrics, advertising rates, and subscriber appeal, all of which translate to higher stock valuations. And number 2, government contracts with or through entities related to TMTG reflect direct financial flows to the president. And then state governments who use Truth Social for official communications similarly funnel value to the president in violation of the clause's prohibition on state emoluments. Boom, criminal. Let's keep going. There's obviously a conflict of interest. Trump has direct financial incentive to manipulate government communications. He's the majority owner of TMTG, so his personal network is directly tied to the company's stock price. Once again, denoted DJT. Now, that stock is notoriously volatile and strongly correlated with political events involving Trump. So this has created a structural incentive, which is the first in presidential history, for the president to route official communications through Truth Social rather than using neutral government communications. Every presidential announcement made on Truth Social rather than whitehouse.gov or an official government press system drives user traffic to the platform and improves advertising metrics. It generates media coverage that increases Truth Social's brand recognition. It also signals to markets that the platform has semi-official government status, which boosts its perceived value. It also creates a captive political audience that foreign actors, corporations, and lobbying groups can pay to reach through advertising. An example of this would be when Trump announced major tariff decisions via the Truth Social rather than official government channels, the stocks moved in correlation with his announcements. So his financial position has improved each time he bypassed government communication infrastructure. Now, I know it's a little annoying, but this is really important. So piggybacking off of that, the most alarming dimension of this conflict is Trump's power over tariff and trade policy. So when the government announces new tariffs, trade policy sanctions on Truth Social before announcing it through official channels, he gives the platform and therefore his stock a form of exclusive access premium. Markets react to Truth Social posts as though they were official government statements. This then creates a feedback loop where policy announcements drive engagement on Truth Social. Engagement data is used to set advertising rates. Higher advertising rates raise TMTG's revenue projections, and improved revenue projections lift DJT's stock price, and then rising stock price enriches Trump directly. This is not speculative. This is the logical and documented consequence of a president who simultaneously holds executive power and majority ownership of a publicly traded media company. Also a part of this, and this one's kind of like annoying, but it's the blind trust failure. So every modern president who has held significant private assets has used a blind trust arrangement, which is placing assets under independent management with no disclosure of holdings to the president, precisely to eliminate even the appearance of self-dealing. Trump declined this arrangement during his first term and has done so again for his second term. Instead, assets remain in a revocable trust that he controls, from which he can withdraw profits at will. The revocable trust structure is not a conflict of interest remedy. It's a public relations device. And so Trump retains beneficial ownership, and he can dissolve the trust at any time, and he receives regular financial benefit reports. So he knows the stock that he's buying and things like that, if that makes sense. So the Office of Government Ethics has previously described this arrangement as insufficient to address statutory conflict of interest concerns. Like, this is not okay. This president is so obviously bought out. Now, I'm going to stop here with the legal ramifications of Trump being involved with Truth Social while being president, because I've actually created about a 14-page document detailing all these ethical and legal infractions, and I'll be posting that on my Substack and Linktree so that everyone can have a copy. It might take me like a day to put it together, but it'll be up there. The reason why I'm telling you guys this is because we need to raise our intelligence levels as a nation. We all need to get smarter. We need to think harder. I understand this isn't like a girl twerking on social media or some stupid, rage bait topic, but this is important. And if we want things to change, we have to understand what's really going on. So anyways, the CEO of Truth Social is Devin Nunes or Nunes. He represented California as a Republican in the House of Representatives for almost 2 decades and resigned in 2021 to take his position as CEO of TMTG and Truth Social. Devin, like many in the cult that is the U.S. government, has been a vocal supporter of Israel throughout his political career. He has consistently advocated for strong U.S.-Israel relations. He co-signed a 2010 letter affirming the unbreakable bond between the U.S. and Israel and emphasized unwavering American support for Israeli security. He also received the Presidential Medal of Freedom during Trump's first term. Devin is a staunch supporter of Americans sending aid to Israel, American servicemen and women dying for Israel, and sending your tax dollars to them, even though we are literally broke as a country. So Devin supports criminal espionage acts because, remember, all aid, all to Israel is 100,000% illegal and has been since 1977 due to them possessing undeclared nuclear weapons. So Devin participated and enthusiastically supported criminal activity. He's a criminal. Any U.S. politician who supports this policy with Israel is by definition a criminal. They're committing crimes. So Devin lobbied against Resolution 2334 while serving in the House of Representatives, combined with Jared Kushner and other Israeli mouthpieces who were against this resolution. This resolution criticizes Israeli settlements, which are internationally recognized as illegal. Devin, while being CEO of Truth Social, so currently, is also chair of the President's Intelligence Advisory Board. Now, let's talk about the legal ramifications of that. Him being CEO while also working on a presidential advisory board. So Devin Nunes, the California Congressional District, the 22nd Congressional District, for almost 2 decades. He was once chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. A possible foreign agent for Israel was a literal leader of our House Intelligence Committee. So that's awesome. He resigned from Congress in December of 2021 to become CEO. That's the parent company of Truth Social. As of January 10th, 2025, he simultaneously holds 2 roles. CEO of TMTG, Trump Media Technology Group, which is a publicly traded private company owned primarily by President Trump, and he's chair of the Intelligence Advisory Board, PIAB, a formal advisory body operating within the executive office of the president. Now, this is not a theoretical conflict of interest. Devin currently holds a senior U.S. government advisory position with access to classified intelligence briefings while simultaneously serving as the chief executive officer of the company that the president appointed him to. So this arrangement has no modern precedent. This has never happened before. What the President's Intelligence Advisory Board is, it's not a ceremonial title. It's a statutory advisory body within the executive office, and they are charged with providing independent oversight and assessment of U.S. intelligence activities. PIAB members receive classified briefings, reviewing covert programs, and advising the president on an intelligence community performance and integrity. Its chair has regular direct access to the most sensitive national security information in the U.S. government. Nunes, as PIAB chair, holds a government role with intelligence access, and he simultaneously serves as CEO of a company that is majority owned by the president that he advises. He operates a social media platform used for official government announcements. It has a stock price that directly affects the president's personal net worth, and it accepts advertising revenue from domestic and foreign entities seeking influence over Americans and users of Truth Social. The company also is subject to an SEC regulation and market forces that can be influenced by government policy. So then you have the dual role ethics violation. So federal ethics law and regulations create stringent rules around conflicts of interests for executive branch officials. While the president himself has a statutory carve-out for some conflict of interest rules, no such rules or excuses exist for PIAB members. So the relevant legal framework is the following. So number 1, 18 U.S.C. Section 208, acts affecting a personal financial interest. Federal employees are prohibited from participating in government matters in which they have a personal financial interest or in which a business partner does. Nunes's compensation and financial stake as TMTG CEO creates a direct personal financial interest, conflict of interest, in matters with the president's political standing, TMTG, and social media. So then 5 CFR section 2635.502, which is appearance of loss of impartiality. So federal employees must rescue themselves from matters where a reasonable person could question their impartiality. An intelligence advisor who is simultaneously the CEO of the president's media company fails this standard categorically. Get your ass out of there. And then Executive Order 13770, which is ethics commitments by executive branch employees, that is Trump's own ethics order. It requires appointees to avoid conflicts of interest. So then holding the TMTG CEO role while serving on the PIAB is precisely, by definition, the kind of dual interest arrangement that his own order was designed to prevent. So once again, the Foreign Emoluments Clause is being violated. Now, one thing about me is I wanted to be a lawyer for the longest time. Can you tell? Because I really like factually and legally destroying people's arguments. Ultimately, I changed my career path to pursue something else, but I did take up a hobby of digging up laws that politicians break because a lot of them try to act superior or righteous compared to all of us peasants. But the truth is they're all just one big cult who commit crimes incessantly. They're literally a mafia. These families are dynasties and they're evil. And it feels great to then slap them in the face with their own book. And you might be thinking, what's the point of calling them out? Well, the point is informed consent. Usually this is used in medical situations. However, I think it perfectly describes what goes on in American politics. Voters cast ballots based on false, misleading, or deliberately withheld information provided by the candidates or parties that they have to choose between. A vote cast on the basis of lies or manufactured facts is consent that was never truly given. It was obtained through deception. My whole argument is people don't know what they're truly voting for. When politicians fabricate statistics, break promises they never intended to keep, or exploit fear with false premises, the voter isn't choosing the real candidate. They're choosing a fictionalized version, carefully constructed to win their support. This undermines the foundational principle of democratic legitimacy, which holds that government power derives from the genuine, informed consent of the governed, not from whoever is most skilled at deceiving the most people. So, in order to break that two-party spell on the American public, I want to inform people so that they know what they're actually voting for. Because if you're paying attention, or even somewhat informed, you know that the two-party system is a false dichotomy intended to keep our nation at odds with each other and not with the actual government and their actions. Because if people could be, bipartisan and not idol worshippers, then they would be able to hold Trump to standards, to legal concerns, ethics, same things with Biden. And we need to do that no matter who's in office. And additionally, giving people something tangible to be enraged about, like actual laws that these people are breaking, is a great way to give power to the people. Because we are not just complaining because we're mad or, because your candidate didn't win. We have factual legal arguments. And then that can propel prosecution, accountability, and hopefully change. So this false two-party dichotomy also makes people think that just because you disagree with Trump, you're a liberal with Trump derangement syndrome, and vice versa with Democrat candidates. If you disagree with one thing, of course, that means you support the opposite. It creates only two possibilities in people's minds. The two-party system is the largest contributor to the retardation of the American mind. The whole thing is a psychological operation, and that's why people literally worship politicians just because they claim to be Republican or Democrat. It's quite satanic in nature if you really think about it. So back to Operation Epic Fury. 17 days prior to this, a Trump mega donors company quietly secured control over the healthcare data of 150 million plus Americans, access to the Air Force's most classified intelligence workloads, effective control of CBS News and CNN through the Paramount and Warner Bros. Discovery merger, which is pending regulatory approval from the DOJ, but it's run by Trump appointees, so it'll pass. And also the elimination of the only AI company, Anthropic, who refused to allow its model to be used for domestic mass surveillance, and it was conveniently replaced by its competitor, ChatGPT. Then a war started, and none of that was examined. So, who the hell named it Operation Epic Fury? Pete Hegseth has got to be one of the most cornball, douchebag, frat boy losers I've ever seen in my life. This guy's wives can't even trust him not to cheat on them, and yet we're expected to trust him to be head of our Department of Defense? Oh, we're fucked. I love how every position of power is given to people who are easily controlled and blackmailed. Sexual perversion and degeneracy is the easiest way to blackmail individuals, and I have no doubt that that's what's been going on with Pete Hegseth. Aside from the fact that he's a money-hungry, unintelligent, possessed shithead who will do anything for power, which, you know, a lot of these people have in common. They're extremely power-hungry, and they worship money. And I don't know about y'all, but, like, I would never sell my soul. That guy literally has Christian tattoos all over his chest, and then he's selling his soul. Like, you know, you're going to hell forever, right? It's so funny. I was on, you know, my Sean Kelly interview, and we were talking about something, and I was like, nobody can buy me. There's no amount of money. And he was like, he sounded kind of surprised. He was like, really? And I was like, yeah. Like, what's the point? And I don't know, from my experience, I grew up poor, and there was never that much of an importance on money because we had to live without it. So, like, we were never put in a position where we were worshiping money. And also, I was raised in a Christian household who believed in compassion, family, community, faith. You know, we never worshiped money. We actually read the Bible and know that that is a grave sin to worship money. The root of all evil is love of money, or something like that. I'm tired, but you guys get what I'm saying. Yeah, I cannot imagine being like, okay, for a few pleasures of the flesh, I'll send myself to hell forever. You're disgusting. And the thing is, hell isn't the only consequence for these people. They are suffering while they're alive. Like, trust that they are. If not physically, they are suffering mentally, emotionally. Like, they are quite factually possessed by demons. They conjure them. Yeah. But just this sequence of events with AI integration into the US government within the past 17 days at unprecedented levels. And then we strike Iran without congressional approval, which isn't new. Presidents have been doing that for decades because Congress doesn't do anything and they're just for show. Abolish Congress, actually. Abolish a lot of the government. I don't know what's supposed to come after this. I've been thinking about it a lot. And obviously, you know, there was a shooting in Austin and another one, and there's probably going to be more. And those, of course, were like pro-Iranian alleged Muslim individuals. And I hope you guys know that these are planned attacks. These are false flags, allegedly, in my opinion, by the secret societies, the CIA, the Mossad, in order to manufacture American consent, because then you have Americans believing, oh my gosh, they do hate us. They hate everything about us, our culture. Those are mindless Americans. You need to pay attention. That's not true. If anything, I just want people to think about this. Let's say you are growing up, say you're 7 years old, and you live a normal life. You have a family. You guys love each other. You guys have food on the table every night. I guess it's not an average life, but just for this example. And then one day, a bomb hits your residential area. Both your parents are killed. Your little sister's killed. Your little brother's killed. And let's just say it's you and a few of your family members left. I'm just saying, have a heart and think about what we put these people through. America has been the biggest aggressor for almost a century now. And I just don't understand how people aren't recognizing this. This is not okay. We can live in peace with our neighbors. We have before. And this is demonic. This is actually evil to go to Iraq and Afghanistan and murder millions of innocent civilians, innocent children. There are multiple stories in which U.S. servicemen and women would go in and rape and kill entire families. Look it up. This is a demonic thing. And any Christian supporting the war in Iran, they're either ignorant or willfully. I highly encourage you to get right with the Lord, because he will not bless you for participating in a ritualistic, satanic murder of other human beings. This is evil, to go to another country and murder 148 little girls in a school, which is what we did on the first day of the attacks. We just can't stop killing children, can we? But then again, what do you expect from a government that refuses to hold child traffickers and child rapists, cannibals, accountable? They don't care. They don't care about your children. They don't care about Iranian children. They don't care. All they care about is advancing their malicious agenda. And honestly, it has everything to do with Israel. And I think that we should all have a heightened sense of security, because when other countries, really just Israel, wants us to perform military actions or things of that sort, they create just cause. So we saw this with 9/11. We saw this with quite a few other events. And I do think that perhaps they will do it again. These shootings are horrific, but they are small in comparison to what they could do. And I do worry about another 9/11 possibly happening. And there's actually been a lot of Israeli influencers that have been pushing that narrative. Laura Loomer, I don't know what the hell is wrong with that person. I didn't even know who that person was until this past year. I don't know why she's famous, but clearly it's because she's a Mossad asset. And I just want to know, like, why is it okay for that person, I don't know if it's a woman, for that person to say for months and months and months, you can look on her Twitter, that there's going to be another 9/11. She has said it continuously for months. That's a national security threat. And she's been ramping up the Christian versus Muslim, the Muslim versus Jew, because she's being a terrorist. And by the way, I saw this post about Iranian missiles being able to reach the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And then she said, well, of course they're going to hit the mosque and blame Jews. Hey, are you an idiot? Like, actually? Clearly, because you ate dog food on live stream. But the people who would blow up the Al-Aqsa Mosque are the ones who have been threatening to do it for years, which are the Israelis, because they've been trying to destroy it. There's a whole sect of the Israeli political ideology that believes in the destruction of that mosque in order for them to rebuild a third temple, because that mosque was built on the ruins of King Solomon's temple. And you know, if you watch my ADL episode 2, you know that King Solomon is the true person that these people relate to. It's not King David. They changed the name from Seal of Solomon to Shield or Star of David. They worship the literal demon king. That was King Solomon. He was originally called God's most wise king. He was favored and loved by God for this. But then he took 1,000 wives and concubines, and they worshipped Canaanite gods, which are demons. So he literally had a signet ring with the Seal of Solomon, which is the modern Star of David, Seal of Solomon. And he would use that to conjure demons. Actually, So this is real. It sounds fantastical, but we live in a spiritual world, and it doesn't matter if you believe in it, because the powerful do. And the powerful count on all of us to think that it's not real, it's too fantastical, you need to be logical. No, no, no. You need to be realistic. There's a reason why these people believe this, and it's because it is real. So, yeah, they're being messy, and the US government literally does not care if you live or die, or if your children live or die. And my suggestion to everyone, do not join the military. Do not. I understand if you want to be a patriot, start a state militia. That is legal under the Second Amendment of the Constitution. That's what that was for, to keep a well-regulated state militia in order to prevent federal tyranny. So if you want to join something, join that. And they just don't care that you are sending your sons and your daughters to die for a war that we should have never been in the first place. Meanwhile, back at home, our lives get worse and worse. And yeah, I'm just saying, all the jihad shit that might happen after this, that's our fault. The US government should have done this peacefully and talked with Iran. They literally bombed them during negotiations. You know, if the Israeli government didn't own our government, things would be different. But, you know, Trump gives this an estimate of 5 weeks, the war. So I think it's either going to go two ways. Number one, it will only last about 2 to 3 weeks, and then they will dote on the US military, like the best military force in the world. Look at what we did. Or it's going to go on for quite a bit of time. And the thing about the US is we don't have a large infantry. Like, we only have about 1 million enlisted. And that's like really small compared to other countries, and compared to the amount of man strength that you would need to have physical boots on the ground in Iran to take it over. You would need like 3 to 4 million, I believe. Although, who knows? With modern warfare, there are nightmares that can be deployed. But I just think they're going to send a lot of American servicemen and women to die, so that then that will ramp up the patriotism, the American attitude of nationalism, and people will be like, yes, go in and destroy the country. And that's wrong. And that's wrong. And that's wrong. And that's wrong. And that is a blood sacrifice. These people love to sacrifice the goyim, other people's children. And that's exactly what this is. And it's fucking wrong. And I'm anti-war. I wasn't always like that. But everybody needs to grow up and realize that murdering innocent people is wrong. It is fucking wrong. And if you believe in that, you should not be allowed to be around other people, honestly. So, yeah. I know this was a lot of information. I just had so much to say, and I've been researching all weekend. I had such a busy weekend, and all this stuff happened at like 2 a.m, with the bombing and everything. So this isn't going to be my normal, like, style of these videos, but this is just the first one, and I just wanted to get all this information out. So yeah, I think that Israel and the US government are scared because they know that public support is wavering really hard for Trump and Israel. People are really sick of this, especially younger people. I'm talking like 40 and younger. We're over it. It's time to invest in America. It's time to care about Americans because things are getting really bad over here. I'll be back on Monday with another episode. I'll be posting some reels here and there. I can't wait to get into that Hillary Clinton video. Or can I? It's probably going to be so pointless. I'm not sure when my Sean Kelly interview drops. Could be a month. I'm not sure. And then I have a Jake Shields interview dropping as well. That should be soon. But I know with the, whole Iranian situation going on right now, it's kind of like, delayed some things. So it's coming soon, but I'll post about it when they're about to drop. And I hope you all are finding ways to enjoy life and find a sense of peace, spending time with family or friends or just in nature. Yeah. Don't overwhelm yourself with everything that's going on, because it's really, really easy to do so. And it can help make you feel defeated. So we all just need to take care of ourselves, take care of each other. You know, I said this before, which is we will only get through these horrific times by loving one another. And I really do believe that. One of my favorite scriptures is 1 Corinthians 13, 1-8. If I am without love, I am nothing. If our country was ran by real Christians, or just good people, we would know. And it's not. So it's up to us to change it. And we can. And we can create a better future for us and our children and our grandchildren. But it starts with us. I will see you guys next time. Until then, I'm Ginger, and this is my theory.